You're listening to the New World to Go podcast with your hosts, Redbyrd and BDLG.
Hello and welcome to another episode of New World to Go. I'm your host, Redbyrd, and with me is BDLG and Lemoni. He's not going to say anything. Lemoni, what you got something to say, dude? Welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. First time on the show.
First time. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah,
I'm glad
dude.
to be here. You know, I finally got invited, even though these people left me, but, you know, still glad to be here.
Literally the opposite of what happened, Lemoni, but we could talk about that later. Honestly, dude, we've had the opportunity to play with you a lot. We were both on Eden for quite a while. We got to run some mutations and stuff. We loved playing with you. We loved playing with you, past tense.
Yeah.
Obviously,
past tense.
you left us, but that's, again, we can talk about that later. But yeah, it's great to have you on the show. Real quick, dude, for anybody listening that doesn't know who you are, why don't you give a quick plug?
So I'm Lemoni. I'm a healer on New World. I have a YouTube channel, and I stream on Twitch. That's about it. That's my shameless plug for the day. But you can catch me there, and I'll be doing healing stuff over on Marama right now, not Ono, because I did not leave them. They left me.
Listen, okay, let's get this out of the way here. That way, because our listeners, we want them to have the facts here, Lemoni. That's what this show is all about. And Lemoni left us first. His company left Eden, and his server was locked when we transferred. So there was no chance of us joining him.
That's true.
Again, and honestly, you're one of the people. You're one of the diehards, honestly. In the community.
You guys are too.
Yeah, we obviously, it sucks not being able to play with you because, honestly, with the server situation right now, it's hard to find like other content creators that play the game, at this point. So it was fun playing with you on Eden when we got to stream together and stuff like that.
One day they'll fix servers and we'll all be together again.
Paid server transfers.
Yep.
When that happens, I expect you to shell out the money for your company to transfer to Ohana.
See what we can do. If you look at my production value, I don't know if I have that money, but maybe one day.
Yeah, we can start a Patreon or a GoFundMe for bring Lemoni home to Ohana.
Works for me.
But all right, guys. Well, we got a ton to talk about this week. Dude, it's probably one of the biggest or the heaviest news weeks I think we've had in a long time in the New World space. So let's hop right in with the news of the week. And I'd like to point out real quick here, you see how naturally Lemoni doesn't talk when I do a nice little segue to the...
Yeah.
And Bordy's been on the show since the birth of the show.
I didn't
over
say
2 years. You didn't
Weird.
You didn't miss time, but it's like a 50-50 with you. You're batting 500 in the worst way possible.
Whenever I have something to say, I'm going to say it. All right, that's just how it works.
That is true. That is true, and I respect
thinking.
that. So obviously we got a lot of crazy bits of news this week. One of those was the dev update, another dev video. We got from Greg and the team. Greg actually wasn't there this time around, but we did obviously see a lot of familiar faces, and they broke down a lot of a lot of questions, and I think the main thing was the roadmap, which we're going to kind of hang on to until the end or the main topic of this week. But I do want to talk about some of the stuff that was discussed in the dev update. So one of the things I think that's important about these dev updates is the transparency that they have. They continue to talk about their intentions of the game or the way that they see or the problems that they see, with the game, et cetera, et cetera. And so one of the things that we'll kind of go through the article on New World Fans that Mallet put up, if you guys are kind of following along with us, is they mentioned is a weapon in combat. Obviously, this is something that just continues to be an effort of them to make sure that they're balancing things within the game. I think a lot of us have different opinions, potentially, or facts on what's good or bad about weapons in combat right now. One of the things that they mentioned, and we talked a little bit about this before the episode, was the Void Gauntlet still being a crowd favorite. Now, we're on pretty big population servers with high population right now. and that seems to be almost the opposite of what of what's happening. But let's talk a little bit about weapon balance and what the devs said versus, you know, I guess the current meta and situation that we are experiencing.
Yeah, go ahead, Lemoni. I want to hear your take here, man. Let's
Yeah. So this is something I've been talking about since patch day was weapon balance given current GAIG status. But I just want to touch on Void Gauntlet first. Right now, in my eyes, I think after they nerf the Void Gauntlet, I think it's in a pretty good spot as far as Scream goes. I think it's in a good spot. You can tell when the Scream's coming. Scream's still useful. Orb's in a good spot. I think Void Gauntlet, other than being a little buggy at the moment, it is relatively okay. You can still set up VGIG one-shot ice spike if you want to, but I am a firm believer in that the fact that it is not a crowd favorite at all, and the fact that we kind of talked about it on my stream, and I just actually put out a video about it too on my channel. But in the dev update, they kind of emphasized this point of it was like the PvP crowd control monster, kind of making it out to be like this force to be reckoned with. And I just sat there and I paused the video and I kind of had this moment of like, are you serious? Like, and we were talking pre-show, just, you know, IG right now with Ice Shower and GA with Gravwell, you're getting pulled into these constant routes, and then the shower makes it so you can't roll. And if we're talking CC, like that's the CC. We have AoE, massive CC, and then you can throw in people with like Warhammers and just chain shockwaves or chain Gravwells. And I don't think that like VG is the problem, or nor does it need the balancing. Maybe the video is a little dated. I think if you look at it fundamentally, like how they were explaining how they're looking at weapon balancing, so like, you know, we're looking at the things people are using the most, the weapon setups we believe to be are a little too strong, and they had a really good background, a solid foundation for how they should balance, but it just seemed like it, you know, missed the mark. I don't know. How did you guys feel about that?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I thought the same exact thing. Whenever I was watching the video, I too was watching it on stream, and I paused it right there as well. And I thought and said basically the same thing you said. I thought, man, the Void Gauntlet, that was pretty surprising to me because all you see is Ice Gauntlets running around on the server. You see a ton of them because Ice Shower right now is super strong. It's like we were talking about it a little bit, and I think it might be actually broken. And Red said that as well. And I feel like it might be actually a little bit broken. It kind of sucks you in sometimes. It's very inconsistent when it does it. But then again, that may be desync and not actually the Ice Gauntlet ability doing that. You know, there's been times where I have seen the shower coming, so I roll back to avoid the shower, but then get sucked in anyway. And that could just be desync. It may not be the ability itself, could be desync, but I think there's other problems with the ability outside of that too. So I would agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't think Void Gauntlet is necessarily an issue right now. I think there's a lot of people out there that may disagree, but given the experience and the amount of time that we put into the game, I really don't. I think Void Gauntlet is fine. I think Ice Gauntlet, Ice Shower in particular, the rest of the abilities, whatever, but Ice Shower, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. Red, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, it's tough with the balance.
You're Ice Gauntlet user.
Yeah, I was
so,
going to say,
we
have a good mix here. We have a good mix.
Yeah, it's challenging because one of the things you look at impact-wise is like the ability to land it. How is the range of it? I think one of the things I've always thought is like Gravwell, the kit on the Great Axe, and having the ability like Gravwell, which is now a ranged hard route. Like you cannot dodge or roll now out of it. You have to use an ability. Sometimes if you precast your ability, it doesn't even work. Like I'll do burnout before like in anticipation to the Gravwell, and I'll still be stuck in the Gravwell. It's hard to balance other abilities when Gravwell's in the game, in my opinion, because like Shower is like a melee range ability, like AoE. That does, I think it's just broken right now. I don't think the slow applies correctly to your character. I think it lasts for way too long.
It definitely does.
For where it's intended right now. But yeah, I think like one of the things like that's challenging is to like balance around things like Gravwell when you have like the hammer, which is like the CC king or should be, where the stuns are so unimpactful that you know, it's like, well, Shower is broken compared to where the rest of the CC in the game is at the moment. But I think Gravwell is another one of those abilities that needs attention, but it keeps getting attention and still is pretty strong. So I don't know. It's tough. I think, like you said, I don't think Void Gauntlet's a problem anymore. I think that the reason Void Gauntlet was a problem was because Spike was a problem, right? You could scream someone into your ice spike, which was pretty detrimental. But now that they fixed Spike, I even think Scream could have probably be the way it was before. It's not necessarily a thing, but yeah, Shower's not behaving correctly. I think there's a bug there because it does feel bad when you're slowed for like 20 minutes after getting in one shower.
It's definitely a little buggy. 100%. That's something I've looked into a bunch, but the way the movement speed applies and everything, it's just not right. But it's interesting for me because I get like both ends of it, right? So I'm healing, so I just get attacked by everything, right? So we have some melee, we have some ranged in here, but it's just right now, I think you're 100% right with, you can't really balance until Gravwell gets some work. And I think with the PTR where they changed Gravwell, right, they nerfed it so hard that it just didn't do anything. And then they changed it in a way that just made it, like, the whole issue with one-shot ice spike in my eyes was, I thought it was interesting that one-shot ice spike, you had to be pretty good at aiming it to actually get it to work. And I think the issue was you could scream so often that you could just keep doing it. Yeah. And I think now that you've nerfed scream, you've put ice spike in a spot, one-shot ice spike, you can still do it. It's a little bit harder. But now essentially what you've made is this, you just created one-shot ice spike, but on an AoE kind of field where everybody gets pulled in and then showered in the maelstrom. Like, I can walk in and essentially do a one-shot ice spike with 2 buttons where I don't have to aim with a great axe, right? And then you make it even worse where, let's say you're a GA player, you throw down your great axe, your Gravwell, you've essentially screamed everybody together. Now you walk up with your ice gauntlet because you're a full strength user who uses an int weapon. You root them, get your big rend, and then you just switch back. You hit an AoE spin that is essentially an ice spike at this point and kill everybody. And so now you've created your problem, but on a larger scale that now applies to AoE and wars in OPR and everything. And I think that's what the major issue is they try to remove this single target assassin and now made an AoE assassin in a sense.
An AoE assassin that has been on a weapon that has been at, I would say, S tier since the game launch. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what doesn't need help being good? It's the great axe. And somehow the ice gauntlet is now helping the great axe be good. It is a very odd meta to be in, but it's one that definitely needs attention because I think, again, mages were in a bad place. Firestaff got fixed, which made, I think, mage competitive again. And then now there's like a problem with the ice gauntlets where it's going to get attention from nerfs even because of it pairs well with a great axe, which is very weird to think about. You know what I mean? Ice Gauntlet's going to get nerfed because it's good with Great Axe, which is like a perpetually like dominant weapon. So I don't know. I think there are a lot of interesting things to be had with the meta and where it's at right now, I think. But I do think one of the things that I do appreciate as a player is the meta's changed a lot over time since the game has been out, which is always a good thing. People needing to adjust to where the game is at and stuff.
I'll say though, the one thing with meta, sorry to rudely interrupt you like that, but healer meta like has not really changed at all, unfortunately. Like we were like maybe like day one people were rolling like heavy armor, but now it's just been like rapier since Void Gauntlet came out, right? Like I have not switched my rapier. Even with the rapier nerf, it's not much of a change. I think it's harder, obviously, given like Great Axe and everybody using Ice Gauntlet. But in my eyes, if it's really difficult to use anything but a rapier right now as a healer. And I would like to see like more, and I mean, I'm a little bit biased, but more like healer love and some of this balancing that comes in the future, just because as far as like tree goes, I have not switched out of my same healer tree where I go like 10 points on the left to, all the perfect point setup. And then whatever ability I use on the right, like just nothing has changed. Right. So it's just interesting. Like our weapons are changing, but our builds aren't really changing. And I think in terms of like future balance, maybe targeting the tree a little bit more might help. I really don't know what direction to go right now, other than I think we do need to start with how does CC work in the game. Then I think you can kind of get into a conversation of like, should there be diminishing returns on CC, and would that improve things? And then could healers maybe use a different weapon? Could anybody use a different weapon? Because right now it's like if you don't have CC in your kit, you will not be taken into things, and that's I think where the overarching issue of New World PvP is at.
Well, and I think that's a great point to the Void Gauntlet nerfs. Is like Void Gauntlet was intended, I think, in in its like intentional creation to be a back bar weapon for a support player, and that has not been the case. You know what I mean? I heal a little bit, and when I do heal in like mutations and stuff, I do bring the Void Gauntlet for. Obviously, Oblivion is a great support weapon for DPS. And then you have, I always just use the Void Blade for like, my group hates me for it, but I get in there and do a little bit of DPS on like Scylla or Chartis or something like that. But yeah, that's it. I mean, because like you mentioned in PvP, it's basically rapier or bust on the back bar, because a lot of the times healers are in light armor. They need the evasiveness and the stun, and yeah, it's not going to change anytime soon, I don't think either, until we get another focus-oriented weapon, because that's the only thing that could really compete with the rapier, I think, at this point, is if something scaled that made sense that would help you support players with your primary stat. But you guys got anything else to say about the meta before we kind of hash through the rest of this news?
I think I've complained about the meta enough in my streams and videos that I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, well, what's great is, any negative attention we'll just blame on you, since you're on the
exactly 100%. Blame it on me.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we will. So yeah, no, Bordy, you got anything else to say before we move on here through the rest of this news real quick?
No, we can continue.
Okay, so a lot of this is old news. We've covered it on previous episodes, just basically the Indigo eye drop, a lot of the things that are coming in March, which we've talked about, the NPCs in the open world that are going to kind of bring some life and some point of interest, that are going to bring some interest to the the way it feels when you're exploring Eternum with Stinky the Hunter, and then the what is the mob called? It's like a loot goblin, basically.
Raffle bones.
There we go. And then we got the paintings, the Bob Ross public events, or whatever these things are. I think this stuff is great for exploration, for open world. I don't know how much we want to talk about that, though. I think we've covered it already. But it's just cool that they're adding stuff like this to the open world. I think that makes it more interesting as you explore Eternum. You guys got any comments about the open world additions to the game?
Yeah, we have the vistas on the map, so go look at the map if you want to find the locations. To
vistas, there we go. Not Bob Ross. Okay, I'll have to change those on the map.
Yeah, man. Newworldmap.com. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never used it before, so glad to be hearing about it.
Glad
to be hearing about it. Yeah, glad to be hearing about it now.
Yeah.
No, I think with the events, I think the biggest thing that's coming out of this is, I like that they're adding like NPCs and stuff for like the level 20, 30, 40 zones, and like they're adding in like double XP weekend, like stuff like that. I think the biggest thing that a lot of the more hardcore players have to realize, I think there's going to be a lot of people out there that are like, I want more end game stuff, right? But I think the biggest thing to be aware of is they're going to start putting in more, and like in the future patches, I'm calling this, they're going to start putting in more stuff tailored to like the beginning, and more stuff in that progression. Because if the game is to grow and we want to get to the point where this is one of the bigger MMORPGs out there, and this is a really solid game, right now we have to build our foundation for newer players and do stuff to bring newer players in. And I think just seeing stuff is kind of attesting to that. And if we want the game to be in a really, really good spot, we have to work on, the recruitment process and getting people in so we can build for the long term of the end game. I think that's just the biggest thing I kind of had when I was looking at all of this.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead.
Morty, go ahead. No.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. I'll take the floor. I said the same exact thing not too long ago, Lemoni, because whenever we were going through the devlog on stream, a lot of people were like, well, we need more in-game stuff. And I was like, well, that's great. You're right. We do need more in-game stuff. But what if they have a patch that brings in a lot of players, and the game that you played back then is still the same game as you play now? Do you think those players would stay? And how long do you think that the game will last if they don't change things that don't directly affect you? So like all these players that have 1,000+ hours in the game right now, I think we have to be a little bit more open-minded and understand that we really need them to work on early game progression and early game stuff, and add more things for those players to do as they level, so that they'll be hooked and they'll play the game long-term. So then we have long-term players in a healthy MMO. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It was a great point.
Yeah, and one of the things I think we all thought when the Umbral Shards came out was it was a little too early for something like that. To increase gear score by 25 that early in the game's life was a challenging. Obviously, they put some quality of life things that help you get your expertise up a little bit higher quicker. But I think, to sum this up, is now it is time to go back, make sure that the game feels really good to get to the expertise system, to keep people who are purchasing. Maybe there's a Steam sale, or they get the game gifted to them. There's new players that are maybe coming in because of arenas or because of these new events, or these new features that are being added to the game with the roadmap we're going to talk about later. You need to retain those people to that point, because some people right now are quitting through the leveling process, and some of that has to do with the server sizes and the server health and what it looks like to level right now. But some of that is also the sheer amount of the amount of time it takes to get to play with their friends. Right? I think that's a barrier always. It's like, if I get a friend into the game and they need to sink 500 hours into the game to get to where I'm at, a lot of the times that doesn't work out well to be able to play with me in general, or play with your friend in general is a tough ask for people that are playing part-time, like 2 or 3 hours every night.
Yeah. I think a party sync option would be great. Like, I know WoW does this where, you'll go down to their level and do quests like in line with them. Like in the future, just some kind of party sync would be fantastic. But I think like the biggest thing with all of this is, like, talking about endgame, is I think a lot of players in the MMORPG genre are kind of like, I'm a constant grinder, I'm going to play this 8 hours a day kind of thing. It's like, it is okay to, dabble in some other games. You still love New World. It's still your main game. It doesn't mean you have to play it 24/7. So there doesn't have to be 24/7 content. And I think that's just one of the biggest things a lot of people have to recognize sometimes.
Yeah, I have over 1,000 hours and still haven't completed like a lot of the stuff that I've wanted to. And the game's only been out for 4 months, so there's a ton of content to do in the game if you're into it. But yeah, it does need to be a barrier in which we need to let these newer people that want to play the game in at, that allows them to play with the concurrent player base, which I would say is mostly built up of hardcore players at this point. We need to get them up to that level pretty quickly to retain them, and I think that's something that they need to continue to work on and look at. Other things that were brought in to these discussions before we move on to the roadmap here. Are the bot stuff. Obviously, bots are continuing to be an issue. Honestly, I've noticed a lot less bots recently. You guys, you're on a bigger server, Lemoni. How's the bot situation over where you're at?
I mean, like, sometimes I'll just go run around and dabble in like some of the starting zones, and I'll see, bots pretty much everywhere. Right? I think the thing that's like concerning for me is I don't ban, but I report a lot of bots and like I'll block them, but then I still see those same bots on for weeks in my like blocked friends list. Even now. So like that's just something concerning to me. But I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly, whenever I see like gold sellers or like any kind of guy running around just trying to gather stuff, I'm on it right away, just because it is a problem. And like that's the kind of stuff that just makes the game a little bit more rough.
Yes.
Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah.
And it affects the economy in a very weird way too. Having bot farmers out there, they're making the gold. So the gold doesn't get injected back in the player base, which aren't making decisions on spending. So then it's like, well, like there's this massive gap between if I'm going to go grind out greenwood to sell on the on the auction house, and then how much it takes for me to buy a best in slot piece of armor. I mean, you would literally, I think, would have to spend months of gameplay grinding out farming materials or gathering materials to get a best in slot weapon. And that's kind of really, I think that gap needs to be closed significantly. Right now, while we're on the economy thing, when you get a timeless shard, you think it's supposed to be like an in-game piece of item that helps you roll something good. But the thing is you have to spend right now, Iron Guardsman's sigils or whatever they are 200 per item. It's like I had to spend $2,000 to get roll Constitution on something, and then another, X amount of thousand to roll the cooldown mats, and then you're talking about the, the modifier, because we want resilient, or we want something that's useful, or heaven forbid you want like insatiable gravwell or something. Those are like 3,000 or 4,000 last time I checked. I mean, you talk about you got to roll $10,000 to $20,000 on or gold on one item, and you're not going to get the item you want in the first try. It's going to take about 50.
Mm-hmm.
So then you think like millions of gold on getting one piece of armor rolled for you, and then you have the bots that are basically taking money out of the economy. So it's just a weird, a very strange thing that, yeah, hopefully as the bot problem gets better, hopefully that gap in the economy also gets better, because it's a very strange thing right now as far as gold sync goes.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of talks about like two different issues as well. First, crafting mats are insane. Like if I want to roll stuff, slivers of consecrated iron to put sacred on your ring are 17,000 gold to 20,000 gold just for one. So it's like it's not even trying to get a sacred hardy ring was the death of me. But it's like that is just ridiculous, right? But that we talk about bots and talk about gold, and like there are. I mean, believe it or not, people, people are buying gold on servers. Otherwise, bots would not advertise it. Like that is a problem.
Yeah.
But then it also attests to the point of there's a lot of gold that comes from being a big company, which is also shooting prices up because they reset markets. They buy out all the Asmo, they buy out all the other stuff, and then they'll reset it. Like they really want to do that because they have the power to. Then they make money, and then the economy goes into a whole whack. So there's a lot of different issues with that. I will say I'm horrible at making gold. So, luckily my company makes gold and I'm able to get, some help with rolls and things. But I think if you're a solo player or even a small
will you repeat that, please? I just want anybody that's in our companies listening, I just want them to hear that. What you just said.
If your company makes gold by owning a territory, they'll help you out with rolls, hopefully, But
the owning territory thing is a challenge.
That's a rough one. Yeah, that's a rough one.
Yeah.
But it's like right now as a solo player, a small company player, you're right. Sitting there grinding mats. I'm not myself. I can't just go sit there and grind mats and it's not going to net me gold. The best way to net gold right now is playing the market and playing buy orders and reselling the things that have been jacked up in price. That's essentially it. If you're going to sit there and farm wood or farm, I'm sure there's things you could farm, but even if you're an orichalcum miner, you're competing with bots. You're competing with other players who are trying to go for it, and it doesn't sell for that much when you're just mining the ore. So it's like there's definitely some issues in the economy.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's one of those things that I like the Gamba system. I love rolling armor and like that feel when you hit something good, but the sheer amount of gold you need to have that experience in the game is insane. It's absolutely broken. It needs to be addressed soon. And I don't know, to your point, Lemoni, I don't know if bots are the only problem there. I think that the territory control system is also a major factor in that as well. Last thing real quick before we get into the main topic is the global cooldown system. We are finally getting a system in the game that's going to let us, not depend upon what time we can play the game that day. Or like for I think most players, you just jack up your cooldowns on the weekends, and then the rest of the week you have to kind of sacrifice to make that work. Now we're getting a global cooldown system. So it's basically at 5 a.m., I believe, server time when that happens, which is, I think, a fantastic change to the game. Bordy, tell us what that means exactly to people's gaming experience in New World.
Oh, it's just gonna make it better. Like that's
right,
what
great analysis, Bordy.
Yeah,
all right, let's just go.
Make it better. Yeah. That's what it means. I mean, I don't know what more to elaborate on. It's gonna make it better for sure, because now, like you said, you don't have to worry about resetting your cooldown. I know for me, you're right. Every single weekend, my cooldowns get jacked up. They get jacked up because every morning I'll get on, I stream, I do my gypsum runs or whatever in the mornings. That's the first thing I do on the stream. I do my diamond gypsum, the emerald gypsum, the obsidian and topaz. I do that every single morning. Same run. It takes about 40 minutes, and I do it about the same time. But then on the weekends, I can't get on in the morning, so I do it at night, and then that screws up my whole rotation, man. And so then I have to reset it, and it's just like, oh my gosh. And then it's like, well, what am I going to do now? Like I don't feel like I'm going to progress now on this day or on Sunday or whatever, because now I'm going to have to reset it for Monday or Tuesday or whatever the case may be. And so it's just like, So global cooldowns are huge, and I think global cooldowns, the way I understand it, they're doing it across the board, right? Just your crafting match, your orbs, your everything, that has a cooldown. So that means your daily cooldowns, everything. So it's going to be better because now you'll just be able to log in, and you'll be able to do whatever you want to do throughout the day. And you can
Yeah.
feel like you're progressing your character without having to wait until that freaking hard reset time. So if you do a chest run, if you're trying to grind expertise, you go do a world tour at 8:00 p.m. And then the next morning you get on and you're like, well, what am I going to do now? Because I need expertise. I can't find a dungeon group, but there's a world tour going on. But I can't do it because my chest aren't. Well, now you can, because you can just go do it that day. And it's going to be, man, it's going to make the gameplay experience a lot nicer, I think. Huge quality of life improvement.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't even think about the chest run thing. Like, I mean, I haven't done this in so long, but it's like that is. Think about how many times, like at night, like did your chest run, or when you're not streaming or something like that, and it's like, okay, maybe I do want to do one. Just timers are so weird. But I think the biggest one for me is just like daily cooldowns. Like the amount of times that I'm kind of a night owl, but like I'm up at like 3 a.m. and I just decide to make my cooldown then, and then I have to miss it the next day because I'm not staying up until 3 a.m. the next day. And then I'm just my timers are all out of whack. So I think it's a huge improvement for everybody involved in New World.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Lemoni, bad friend. Never did the bird zerg on Eden with me.
Yeah, that's true.
It only happened once, so it lasted like one day, and I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. It was too much. But yeah, I mean, you guys make great points there. I don't know if there's much to lay down on this past that. It's just going to improve quality of life across the board, and make sure that you can do what you want to do when you can do it that day. Which is what an
MMO is about, in my opinion, right? You log in, you want to do those things you want to do when you want to do them. You want to experience the game how you want to experience it. You don't want to be forced to do something you don't want to do with the 2-3 hours a night you have to play. And so, I think this will help push in that direction for sure.
Yeah, and then again, you go to the point where it's like you miss out. You can't do something because you don't want to jack up your cooldowns, or you don't want to or you can't do something because you chose to play with your friends instead of like do some things you do during your normal time. Yeah, it just breaks up the whole multiplayer experience of the game. So this should definitely fix that with the global cooldowns, which are coming in March. So we should be getting those. I mean, what are you guys thinking? Tomorrow, there's 2 Tuesdays left. It's either the 22nd or the 29th.
It's gonna be the 29th. It's gonna be the 29th.
Yeah,
I mean, look at last month, right? Like it's gonna be next week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, we're not hedging there. I think we all think it's gonna be next week at this point. I think we might see PTR patch 5 coming up soon. But yeah, a lot of good quality of life changes coming in this patch. So obviously, it's gonna be worth the wait. All right, guys. Well, that's about it on the dev update. Unless you guys have something else, we'll go ahead and throw it over to the main topic.
Perfect.
Now that might have been the worst transition ever on the podcast. That was completely my fault. I shouldn't have asked. I shouldn't have asked. I asked the question and then I waited for the response, and then I transitioned. Yeah.
I think me and Lemoni were just staring at each other for like 20 seconds, bro.
I would like to say I'll edit it out, but I'm not going to.
That's fair.
Yeah, so no reason to lead you guys on.
Yeah, maybe next week you get a new host or something. That would maybe work.
I mean, by all means, please. You know what I mean? I would love to free up some space here during this time slot. But no, so we got a roadmap, guys. We've been asking for this for a long time, even maybe pre-launch, on a nice little vision on what's to come in the future of New World. And one of the things I do want to mention before we go through this, I thought it was very interesting to hear Greg say that now they feel like they got their head over water or above water, and that they were hitting their stride here.
That was Scott, by the way. Greg wasn't there. Yeah, Greg.
I said Greg. Scott, yeah. Okay.
Like I said, new host next week, maybe.
Please, yeah. Scott. Scott Lane is going to be the host of New World to Go. Yeah, it'll happen once a month. And we're renaming the podcast New World Dev Update. So yeah, you guys look for those on Spotify, Apple, iTunes. Yeah. Anyways, it was good to see that obviously Scott say that, because I think it's true. And they had such a great cadence during the alpha phase or the late alpha phase of the game when they had that big 1 year delay on keeping the community updated and informed. And it's kind of I thought it was interesting to hear that they felt that way now, and now we're getting this content roadmap and seeing a pretty steady stream of new content in the game. So which I think is important for the health of the game, obviously long term. So let's see, guys. Let's hop right in here. Spring. We got spring, summer, and autumn, or fall, or whatever you call it, where you're from. Some people don't have seasons, I guess. Do you guys? Who's Lemoni? Where are you at? Are you in?
I'm in Wisconsin.
You're in Wisconsin.
Yes, I have seasons.
So you have winter and then winter.
I got everything. And then more winter. And then it like feels it was literally 70 degrees yesterday, and it's supposed to snow on sometime this week.
It's been that way here, man. It's nuts. Yeah, it's really. Like I have a cold for perpetually. Like the temperature and things like start to bloom and die and bloom. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah,
I don't know what's happening right now. But in Eternum, in spring, we are gonna see 3v3 PvP arenas. Hey man, I had to make it up for the last one.
That's quality.
Yeah, thanks. So 3v3 PvP arenas and PvP reward tracks are coming in spring. Now they did mention, we didn't talk about this in the news section, but April will be another month of bug fixes and quality of life things. So I think the game needs it still. What do you guys think about first we'll talk about April, which being more bug fixes.
Yeah, I think it's definitely needed. I think what we're going to probably start to see is like an altering like content bug fix kind of schedule, just given like what they've laid out. I mean, they'll probably do it. I mean, these are like 3-month periods, right? So we'll see it here. We'll have March update, then April bug fixes, and then I'm assuming what's that, May after that we'll have PvP arenas. And I think that'll be a good schedule as far as like everything we've said of setting the foundation and then building upon the end game, and then setting the foundation, building upon the end game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a great solution to their problem right now. You know, you don't want to push out content too fast and introduce new bugs that you don't have time to fix, or fix previous bugs that are in the game right now, and balancing and all that, I think, goes hand in hand with like bugs and quality of life. But so far, man, I mean, the quality of life stuff they're pumping out in March is amazing. I think this quality of life stuff is going to change the game so much. I mean, the reduction of Azoth cost to me changed the game in an incredible way for me, for my gameplay experience while I'm in New World. That alone was a great change. Now with all the other changes that are coming in March, it's absolutely it's excellent, man. Plus the new content we're getting in March too, and then in April, I think it's great for them to kind of slow down on content and do more quality of life, more bug fixes, and just continue down that progression. I like it. I think it's going to be a good cadence moving forward.
Yeah, well, I mean, hopefully that there won't be the need to dedicate an entire month to bug fixing at some point.
Hopefully that'd be the hope, right?
Yeah, hopefully they get to the point where there isn't this. I mean, because there is some problems right now with performance still. You know, and me and Taken were talking a little bit about this week, and Bordy, I think you were there potentially too. It's hard to remember. You're not very notable at times, and so. But there's like the void. Ever since the Void Gauntlet and the Ice Gauntlet have been introduced to the game, there's been some performance issues. So I think those large AOEs that have those particle effects and stuff, there's something up there, and it continues to cause problems with overall performance. Hopefully they can get that fixed. I think one of the things that I would like to see too is like some adjustments there, like individual adjustments with the the particle effects of enemies. Obviously, I've always wanted to see healer AoEs to be a different color, or enemy AoEs, including healing, to be a different color. Because, dude, I the amount of times I've ran to a sacred ground to figure out if it's healthy or not is nauseating. So yeah, hopefully they fix those things soon, and then performance hopefully gets the turnaround. But let's talk more about the 3v3P arenas. This is something that we've been asking for a long time. To have this small group arena type system, and it's finally coming to the game with a reward track, which I thought that was interesting. They didn't go into detail there, but what do you guys think? We'll start with BDLG this time about the 3v3 PvP arenas.
I mean, I'm incredibly excited. You know, I love PvP. It's my favorite part of the game, favorite part of most MMOs for sure. And small scale PvP in particular is my favorite part of the game. I enjoy wars. I think they're fun. I like Outpost Rush. I think it's a lot of fun. But I think in small scale PvP, that's when individual skill can really shine. And I think that's really whenever you start to see like who are the best PvPers on the server, who, I find that setting so much more fun and so much more like skill based. I've always enjoyed small scale PvP a lot more Now I love the fact that they're introducing this option, and now there's going to be a lot of variety with PvP. I think with Outpost Rush, there's some more things they could do there in terms of variety, maybe some different modes within Outpost Rush, like capture the flag or some other crazy stuff in Outpost Rush they can do later on down the road. But I think this is setting a solid foundation for PvP moving forward. We have a lot of options now as PvP players, and I love it, man. 3v3 arenas, I'm here for it, man. I wouldn't mind even seeing some solo arenas, like 1v1, 2v2, 3v3 type of queues that you can queue up for. Maybe we'll get those moving forward in the future too. I think first we'll have to have like cross server queues before that'll work, because right now I'm a little concerned whenever they add arenas, what's going to happen to Outpost Rush, because I think Outpost Rush, nobody's going to queue for Outpost Rush. It's going to be completely dead. I think arenas are going to overtake that until they figure out this whole queue system to split, especially on smaller servers. I mean, it's going to be so hard to get into an OPR if that's what you really enjoy doing. Good luck getting into one after they introduce arenas here at the, in May-ish. But overall, yes, I'm incredibly excited for arenas, man. Small scale PvP is where it's at for me, and I couldn't be happier. I think it's gonna be dope.
Yeah, I definitely feel pretty much all the same things. I think the one thing they could do to maybe keep OPR relevant is keep the Ruby Gypsum in there. It might be like keep it in there and then either make a new one for PvP arenas or just don't do anything at all. But then at the same time, then are you kind of forcing people into doing certain content? Then people might get a little upset about that. I think as far as PvP arenas go, I'm excited for it. PvP in New World, I think, is the main. If you're still a player of New World, I think that's the thing that keeps you around. I think there's mutators, but the PvP is really exciting. My one concern, I have one concern with it, with the arenas and the reward track. I'm not quite sure if right away they're going to be ranked or rated. And I think that is something that might not be appealing to a lot of people, because you'll see in the fall update that we have leaderboards coming and they say this is not just PvP, but PvE as well. So my one thing is I think arenas have a ton of potential to bring back players, to bring in new players, and to get a lot of people excited. But I think if it's just a 3v3 queue that is essentially OPR, where you're not really getting anything out of it but a cash and some gold, and doesn't have that kind of repeatability of give us a ranked queue. And then with the reward track, I hope it would be like a rated reward track, like giving you cosmetics and things like that, and not just like, hey, do 100 arenas and you get this cool skin. And I think that's the concern. And I think that's, there's probably two sides to the fence there, right? You could be on the side of, I just want to play it for fun, play, just queue up whenever. And I think they should have a mode for that. But I think a lot of the player base that is left in New World, especially those who are focused on wars or coming back for arenas, want that rated piece. I think a lot of people who were excited about mutators were expecting the leaderboard to be there right away. And that not being there kind of removes this repeatable competitive component that's there in many MMORPGs today that keeps players going, is they want to see their name at the top of the leaderboard, and sometimes it's just not there. And when you don't have that, it could be a problem. Nonetheless, I'm excited for it, and I'm glad we're heading in this direction, but that's just my one concern with it.
Yeah, and that's a great point, because I think the reason those small group PvP things do well in games is that a competitive aspect to it. Right now there isn't really anything in New World that is extremely competitive other than territory ownership, and that system itself is so exclusive to most, to a small group of players. That, for competitive people or people that like to compete, there isn't a lot to offer in New World, and that will, I assume, be it won't be until the fall. So we will have some time from spring to fall to kind of get used to the arena system, obviously give feedback and make sure that that's in a great place. The PvP reward track will be interesting to me. What do they include in that? Because that could keep people around for a little bit too, to grind that out. Is there going to be, and this is something I brought up in, I think, private conversation, maybe it was on our YouTube video, but was the idea of having exclusive like gladiator type rewards at the end of a PvP season or at the end of the reward track that gave you some sort of exclusive like weapon skin maybe, or some like even cosmetic skins for your character that set you apart, knowing that like this dude has this weapon skin or he has this a cosmetic appearance. He was a high ranked player in that particular PvP season, or he played a lot of or won a lot of games, et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be pretty cool to include in the War Trap. Cosmetics, obviously. And then, I would assume there'll be some Umbral Shards and potential, like, maybe even, like, PvP gear. Maybe it isn't just cosmetics. Maybe it is you have to grind out certain gear that's, like, maybe legendary gear that has PvP stats on it. Stuff like that could be cool, could keep people interested until they get ranked out. But yeah, rank seems to be a little ways off from the initial PvP arena launch. So
Do you guys think we'll be able to? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Red.
No, I was just gonna say that's interesting that is happening. They spread that apart.
Yeah, for sure. Do you guys think that we'll be able to solo queue?
I don't think that we will right now. Yeah, I think you'll have to go in with a 3-man team personally. But
think so.
I don't know. Maybe. I think it's going to depend, but I could see it. I think it would be more invited. Like, I guess this comes down to the rated versus unrated, right? If they have like an unrated version, then yes, I think we will be able to. But anything rated, I don't think they would. But maybe.
Yeah, like I think other games do it. You know, you can solo queue, or you can queue up with 3 people. Like in League of Legends, you can play either 5v5 ranked, or you can solo queue, but you can solo queue with you and another friend, or at least that's how it used to be back whenever I played League a long time ago. Which I thought was cool. But in New World, with it only being 3v3 arenas, you know, if you queue up with another friend, you're obviously going to have an advantage if you're playing the solo queue ranked mode, because you're going to be 2 people on a team versus 3 randoms probably. So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how they do that. I don't know how they're going to do it. I kind of wouldn't mind being able to solo queue, because I mean, sometimes you just want to get on and play. If nobody else is on, or you can't put a group together, if people are doing something else, doing whatever, you may just want to play a 3v3 arena and get in there and like have a little fun. And I think that's fine for an unranked version. I do agree, like a ranked version, they'd have to put a lot of thought into that. And I don't know that you'd want to solo queue a lot there, but I don't know. Just an interesting question that I have, and I'm excited to see what happens with the queuing system.
Yeah, I know WoW does with their 3v3s. There's an unrated where you can just solo queue in, and then you get like 2 randoms, and they'll give you like a healer or something. That's a whole different issue to talk about, is like, role queuing, but they'll give you certain roles, and then you have to be in a 3 stack in order to queue for 3v3. So I would assume it'd be something like that, but I guess you don't know.
Yeah,
I guess the same.
Yeah, that is an interesting question, Bordy, because I don't know if that's even been concrete at this point. And I think we'll know more. I would assume, what they've been doing is they'll put out the patch in March, and then they'll put up the bug fix update on the PTR. So we won't be able to even probably get into the PTR and arenas for at least a month, I would guess, at this point. Maybe unless they choose to put them up there early. So hopefully they're a little bit more clear about what the queuing likes on that side of things. But so that'll be it for spring. We assume that PvP arena update will be in May, and so then we go into the summer. And the summer here, we got the Barnacles and Black Powder Expedition Group Finder, and the summer event. Now, one of the things I'd like to mention, and we brought this up during the PvP arena thing, is that we aren't, the cross server thing isn't happening. At least in the near future. So these are all going to be exclusive to your server. The PvP arenas, the group finder for expeditions. So again, these 2 systems are completely dependent upon if your server's healthy or not, which is a problem right now, because a lot of half the servers are not. They don't have a lot of players. So a lot of these activities, 3v3, I think it'd be hard not to find 6 people on a server maybe that want to participate in arena, but dude, sometimes those servers get up to like 40 people or down to 40 people. So we'll see. But yeah, Expedition Group Finder, which will be good. They didn't mention if it's specific to regular expeditions or just mutations or both or whatever. And then we have a summer event, the first true seasonal event since the winter one. And I think the second one over. I don't know if we consider Turkalon an event. It was literally just a world boss. But yeah, so here we go. Summer, new expedition. Which we assume means another mutation within the rotation of mutations, Expedition Group Finder, and a summer event. So that's I would assume we all think summer, the season's like 3-month period. We're only going to, right now they only have announced 1 expedition, and then a system that is completely dependent upon your server health. So what do you guys think? Summer surprised me a little bit, honestly. I would have thought we would see a little bit more. I would hope that we would have gotten a new weapon during that 3-month period or something. More, but this is what they have announced so far. What do you guys think about the current setup of the summer thing? We'll start with Lemoni.
I think the thing to keep in mind is always like that disclaimer text at the bottom. Things could change around. I'm not sure. I kind of forget how long it was between us getting the Void Gauntlet and us. I mean, what Blunderbuss is the next new one, right? That'll be their next new one. And how long is that period? A couple months. But I guess I I'm not too shocked that we're not seeing the new weapon there, but I would have liked to see a little bit more. I think the big thing with the summer is we have to talk mutator keys, right? And how that's going to function. This is something they addressed was they've acknowledged that they have thought about removing mutator keys and doing things about it. They've talked about it on Twitter. They've talked about it in their dev update. And I'm not really sure what the best option is. I want mutator keys gone. I'm not a fan of them, or just keys in general, not just mutator keys, but just keys in general. It's kind of a weird system of, it kind of time gates you. It keeps you from, finding random groups. You have to pay for it. Obviously, it's not nearly as bad now when like Laz and Gen were actually expensive and you wanted to just run like a dungeon quick. But I guess I would be really for the whole idea of like, if you put in a key, and this is for normal dungeons, not mutators. I kind of misspoke at the beginning, but if you put in a key, maybe you have like an extra chest at the end or something that you can loot or something like that, but make it so that we can repeat these expeditions. For those people who are trying to get their expertise up, they're trying to, get a certain drop. Give them the opportunity to chain run that dungeon without having to time gate it. So like, I'm a huge fan of the expedition group finder coming in the first place. I think this is something that a lot of people have been asking for, but then there is the issue of cross server play and, actually getting into these queues. And they did address that in the dev update and saying they're looking at it in the community section, but when is that actually going to come? That's definitely an after year one kind of thing, I would assume. But yeah, summer, it didn't feel like there was a lot going on. There's an expedition group finder, and the summer event I'm hoping is going to be good, but it's not like the kind of content we're seeing in the spring. But on the kind of caveat to that is, if you look at fall, there's a lot of stuff coming in the fall. So there is that. So maybe like summer will be that period where they're really going to be like, all right, we're going to work on player experience. We're going to work on really making sure we're in a good spot with bugs and balancing and making sure addressing performance issues and all that stuff. And I'm hoping maybe that's kind of the track they're going on. And then autumn, they'll come out with new zone, new expedition, new weapon, events, all kinds of stuff. So I think that's kind of my thoughts on it right now.
Yeah, I think it's funny. You guys are right. There's not a lot of content coming out in the summer for sure, but I feel like there's a lot of things that aren't included on that roadmap. They're going to be really big things that happen to the game, like the orb system that Lemoni's talking about. I feel like there's mechanics in the game now that they didn't include on the roadmap, and it may be because they just don't know when they're going to happen, or the roadmap is just intended to give us an overarching view of like actual new content that's coming to the game and not systems that are getting reworked. I feel like some of those things are going to happen by the end of the year too, that just aren't on there. But more importantly, what I feel like, it's just my gut feeling. I feel like what they're doing is they're still trying to set a solid foundation for the game moving forward, right? Like increasing the gear score happened way too soon. We can all agree upon that. But what that did do, and the positive we can take away from that, is it set a good foundation for the system moving forward to increase your gear, because now they can use that same Umbral Shard system for the duration of the game. If they wanted to do that, they could continue to use that system. It's already in the game, so they don't have to rework the wheel. They don't have to reinvent anything there. It's already there. I feel like with the group finder, rework the wheel, reinvent the wheel.
Definitely.
Listen,
a lot of people say that.
You are not one to come in here with analogies on me, Bubba.
Hey, man, I'm returning the favor of calling it out. Yeah. I just want to make sure everybody, just in case you missed it, Bordy just said rework the wheel.
Reinvent the wheel. You knew what I meant. You know what I meant, man.
Ahead.
See,
sorry.
You have no room. You just have no room to even call me out there. But you get where I'm going, right? Like I think they are laying the foundation for all these things moving forward. Like the expedition group finder is something we've wanted for a long time, and I think that's going to be a solid foundation for when they remove the orb system, for when they rework that system, and whenever they add cross-server queues for all this stuff, as well as being able to queue up for OPR and whatever. I think that will just lay a solid foundation for the future of the game. And I would imagine that after they get all these things worked out that they're trying to get into the game now, in the future, like maybe next year, like the 2023 cycle of content, it'll probably be much different. I don't see them adding like these quality of life features of the game. I see them adding more content to the game throughout that year versus trying to lay the foundation for all this stuff moving forward. So I think that's kind of where the game's headed, and that maybe that's just me being a little optimistic. I don't know. But that's what it feels like to me. It feels like they're still working on laying the solid foundation for the game for the future content that's going to come, later on.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I brought that up, is because I do think that the new mutations, meaning like they need to get the last 3 current expeditions up to speed with mutation versions of that. I think that'll probably happen in the summer, along with the quest encounters, et cetera, the quality of life improvements. But it's shaping up to where the summer might be if Lemoni is correct. Bug fix, Black Powder Expedition with Group Finder, bug fix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That might be the summer's worth of patches. So yeah, that would explain why they didn't necessarily put a lot there. But yeah, I think, you know, I would really like to see the depths, you know, Starstone and then Amarine brought up to mutation speed, because honestly, the depths and the Starstone Burrows, those are two of the best expeditions in the game, I think, right now. You know, mechanic wise, I love like the laser mechanics and watching my friends get melted by them. So it'll be cool to see that in a mutation happen as well. So yeah, I hope those get brought up to speed soon. I know they mentioned some technical issues with that, but hopefully they get that figured out this summer. All right, so here's the big boy, Autumn. This is, I think, something we've all been looking forward to since it was data mined, is Brimstone Sands territory. The Enid expedition, which I would assume before long, the Varangian Knights are going to show up somewhere, right? Maybe this might be our first Varangian Knight expedition. Who knows? The new weapon, Greatsword, very highly anticipated weapon. Leaderboards, which would be PvP and versus PvE. Night PvP and PvE. Night Veil Hollow event, which we assume has something to do with Halloween. And then Turkalon 2022. This is a massive, I think, chunk of content that we're going to get in autumn, obviously. But let's start here with Brimstone Sands. Now, this is what's interesting to me. I assume that Brimstone Sands would be the first bit of territory or content that they actually had us pay for, like in an expedition or an expansion type of situation. So what do you guys think about Brimstone Sands in autumn and what that might mean for, I guess, our pockets? Do you think it's going to be paid, Lemoni, or do you think it's going to be something that is free content?
You know, I didn't really even think about that. I guess my view of how I think content should be released after year one is I think we should have, essentially what other MMORPGs do. We have a little bit of content, like maybe adding new territories, adding some new quests, adding like a new dungeon or something. But then you have this giant expansion that they've been working on, and like that's your paid content. That's what builds up the hype. People are like, hey, let's get ready for it. You'll have a big surge of players before to get ready for it. You'll have a big surge of players on launch, and then you'll retain a bit, and then obviously it'll fade away, and then you'll build up to the next one. And I think like MMORPGs are designed, look at every single one, they have expansion-based content. And it's like that's where you increase level cap. That's where you start to hit gear scores. That's where you start to hit all of that really, really big stuff. As far as us having to pay for it, I kind of hope not. I don't really think it's going to be that big, just in terms of like, if you look at any zone in the game, like it doesn't have a ton to offer in the sense of you should have to pay for this content. I did expect it to come way earlier. I'm not going to lie. I thought it was going to come be one of the biggest things. You can see it on the map right now, right by Evan scale, right? But I'm excited for the fall patch. I think this will be like one of the biggest content patches we will see, but I'm just curious to see how we progress after fall into year one and towards year two. That's what I'm really curious to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Bordy, you know, one of the things I guess that we have kind of, or what I've thought of Brimstone Sands could potentially bring to the game, that might be paid worthy is some sort of new systems that we don't have in other zones. Because I think here's my assumption is Brimstone Sands will not be a territory we can own. I just don't think that that's going to be the case. I don't know if you guys feel differently about that, but I think if it is a territory that we don't have to own, I think it's an opportunity to introduce some things that we had talked about a little bit before, which is a capital that isn't dependent upon player growth or player development, that allows people on dead servers or whatever to have some sort of place to craft and stuff. Bordy, what are your thoughts on, real quick? I think Brimstone Sands is as a territory and potential paid content.
Yeah, for some reason I don't think it's going to be paid content. I don't know why. I just don't think they're going to release paid content yet this year. I think the paid content will come next year, and I'm fine with paying for a good expansion. I have no problem doing that whatsoever, because you're not paying a sub for the game to buy to play game, pay for an expansion. That's perfectly fine with me. But I don't, for some reason, don't think Brimstone Sands will be. Maybe it'll change by the time we get there. That's just my reaction, my feeling so far. As far as Brimstone Sands being like a non-controllable territory, I kind of hope so, man. I know a lot of people would like another territory to fight over, but I am in the camp of the whole territory control system. To me, and I've said it multiple times, I think it's broken, man. I don't like the way it works. On paper, I think it sounds great. In practice, it's awful. The wealth distribution is awful. The way you have to declare wars is awful. The way people snipe whenever you do all the work is awful. The whole system just doesn't feel great. So I almost hope that they take that opportunity to not add another territory and just kind of start to rework the territory control system all in all. Just kind of fix it, because right now I don't think it's fun to be. I don't enjoy it. I don't think many people do. So I would like to see them do that, and I would like to see Brimstone Sands, like have it like a capital. But the problem with whenever you introduce a capital that is like not player owned, because their whole base of this game revolves around player owned cities. Well, whenever you introduce a capital that's not player owned, well then why do you want to even own a territory in the first place? Because that territory is then going to probably not generate very much income, because everybody's going to go to the capital to do all their stuff, right? Unless you have lower taxes or something, that they would have to, in hand with Brimstone Sands, they would have to have some rework to the territory control system if they were to introduce Brimstone Sands as a capital, because then that's just going to diminish all the other, like, why would a company spend all their money upgrading all of these things when people aren't going to use it and they're just going to always go to Brimstone Sands to use their stuff? You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think it would introduce a lot of problems if they did that. But I hope that's what they end up doing, is figuring out some way to work that in. But something tells me, I don't know why, something tells me that Brimstone Sands is going to be a capturable territory, and it's going to be another territory to fight over. And they have no plans of reworking the territory control system right now. I feel like Brimstone Sands is going to be something that you can take. So I don't know. I hope I'm wrong. I hope they do something different. But I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah. One of the things that I think is interesting about the new territory is it also is an opportunity to maybe have like some sort of company bank located there. That could be the
That'd
only
be dope.
Some sort of company support, maybe even company housing in that city.
We need a lot of company quality of life.
Because right now the game is almost completely based around companies, and there's no support for that feature at all. So I would hope that those features are maybe ongoing improvements. Hopefully that category includes some sort of company changes for sure. A neat expedition. I think there's not a lot to talk about there. It'd be purely speculation. It does look like some sort of Roman corrupted version of an expedition if the thumbnail holds true. But at this point, I think this is an interesting one. If they get the current mutations done, or the current expeditions of a mutated version done on each of them, we would have 6 plus the Tempest Heart mutation plus the Brimstone Sands mutation. So that's a total of 8 mutations in the rotation. That would be that if we for some reason like to run the Lazarus expedition or the mutation because it's easy. Then we'd have to wait 2 months to run that again. So do you guys see what are your guys' anticipation? We'll start with Bordy this time, about the current mutation system and how that will change if we have, 6, 7, 8 mutations in that rotation.
Well, they'll just have to add multiple mutations to the rotation, right? So instead of it being 1, they'll have to add 2. So you'll have Genesis and Laz going at the same time, or Dynasty and Tempest Heart going at the same time, or whatever. That way, every week, you have 2 options to go through there, which I think would be better anyway, because you get bored of running the same mutation all the time. But on the flip side of that, you have people that don't get to hardcore the game and play all the time, and they may only have a little bit of time to run their mutation every week. And so having an opportunity to run that same mutation for the whole week gives them an opportunity to go run it and increase their codex by 1 or 2 that week. Whereas, we're fortunate enough to play the game all the time. We can increase our codex to 10 if we wanted to in a week. But a lot of people can't do that. The vast majority of players, they don't have that opportunity. But I think just adding multiple to the rotation, even having like 3 eventually or whatever, I think that's the solution. I think it's a pretty easy fix, really.
Yeah, I think just adding more in general wouldn't be an issue. I don't know how you guys feel about this, but maybe like even leaving them all open all the time, personally, I think it would be a bad thing. And I guess, then there's like people only run the certain ones, but I just feel like then it gives you more opportunity to kind of pick the ones you want to do. I know I always harp on like WoW whenever I'm talking about MMORPGs just because it's like the king, but they have it where everything is open and your key is random, right? You get it in your week and it rolls for a random dungeon. I don't know how I feel about that, but I think having them all open honestly wouldn't be a problem.
Well, I think that goes back to the whenever I log into the MMO, I want to do what I want to do whenever I log into the game type of situation, and that's what players want. And so whenever there's an expedition like Dynasty that no one wants to do, then if that's what you're logging into the game for is to do expeditions, well then those people just aren't going to log into the game. Yeah, they're going to take a week off and play a New World, then they'll come back whenever the expedition comes back. So yeah, I think having them open all of them open all the time would be a better solution. I don't know why that would be a problem necessarily because they're still gated by keys, which I know they're reworking that system. But yeah, I mean, all the gates are, that's a whole other conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
It's an interesting take on that, Lemoni, for sure. Having them all open at some point, I think if you keep adding expeditions, you might have to wait a half a year to get into the one that you want to get into.
Exactly.
Which all the mutations have unique drops in them too, so that makes it even more problematic. And one of the things that I will say is that needs to be updated, which is ongoing improvements. Let's introduce a way to have these expedition drops to be legendary. I think it's crazy at this point to have these all like really cool, unique skins on these weapons that drop in these expeditions, but they're not viable. Like you can't. Why would you ever use an item, in my opinion, in the end game that is gimped by not having a third perk on it? Like it's ridiculous.
They need a transmog system, 100%.
Or a transmog system, sure.
Yeah, any item you've picked up, just like let us use that skin as long as you've picked it up before.
I mean, which I think is another thing. Here's the deal. I think tied to that, if they do that, they need to figure out ways to monetize people. And I know like MMO players don't want to hear that. But like the only thing you're selling right now in the shop is skins. So like, it's like if they introduce a transmog system, I think that becomes challenging is for monetization. But the thing is like, at this point we need transfer tokens. As much as I love my old man with red cornrows, there might be a day where I might not love him anymore, and I want to change my character appearance. So, you know what I mean?
That day's come and gone for me, man. I don't love that character at all.
Yeah,
ready for you to get rid of that character. Delete him from the plane of existence.
He will always be there in heart. Yeah. But the thing is that, one of the things is, those things are fine. I think at this point, I can't imagine anybody being mad to be able to transfer to a server that's more alive and pay $10 for that if they're continuing to enjoy the game and spend a lot of time in the game. So things like that definitely need attention. Hopefully that's in the ongoing improvements as well. I think they did mention that they would have paid transfer tokens soon, right?
Yeah, they talked about it, and I think that would get rid of the hashtag Eden crisis, but just not giving out mass tokens and then seeing everybody flock, and now you're starting to see some of those big servers that die off a little bit, and it's just removing that problem and adding in the pay transfer will be a good thing as far as monetization and everything. Even if they did add in a transmog system, I think having some of those unique skins that they add into the store, I still think it would be a solid move.
Yeah, I think the percentage of the player base would definitely buy them. There's no doubt about that. And I think that, there's got to be just a way, maybe both. Give us both. Let us transmog and make those weapons more viable for the end game, for sure. Which is another topic, I think, as far as like the economy of available like best in slot weapons and stuff like that too. And then the sheer amount of gear you need to compete in each different section of New World. So the great sword, new weapon, obviously one that we've all been looking forward to. It's finally coming to the game. Here's the thing about the great sword too is I think we assume it's all going to be a strength weapon for the most part. Maybe it could be like a paladin weapon, dude. Maybe it is focus based. A melee version of a healing weapon. I think that would be cool. Interesting take on that as well. But yeah, we're getting another weapon to the game, the great sword. I don't know if there's a lot to say about this other than, obviously injecting a new weapon in the meta is always a good thing. But what, you guys have anything to say about the great sword?
I think there's a lot more opportunity for it than people might be realizing, just given like what they said it's going to be like with stance dancing, like being able to change stances. Like maybe there is the opportunity where there's a perk you take in the tree and you change to a different stance where it's now focus based and it does do, melee damage. And then there's supplemental healing based upon that damage, like atonement healing. And I think having stances, I do like with weapons, we do see a lot of interesting, and this is assumed right when you get a new weapon, but there's some mechanics with it that you have not seen before in the game, like grapple hook on the blunderbuss, or all the healing and damage opportunities with the void gauntlet. But I think stance changing brings up a huge window, depending on how they take it and what they do with it, for some really cool stuff. Maybe doing a two-handed sword tank like stance, and I'm only assuming that is definitely gonna be a part of it. But I think there's just a lot to offer. But I think you bringing up that point about like a paladin style weapon is something they could do with trees. Is maybe there is a certain weapon where I'm hoping eventually this happens with like when they bring in the mace and you can mace and shield, and they have that opportunity for healing with it. I just think there's some really cool stuff you could do there.
Yeah, and this is the thing is we need more tanking weapons. We need more healing weapons. So hopefully this is both. Maybe one tree is tanking, the other one's healing, and there is no DPS. I would love to see that more weapons like that in the game that increase the viability of support, because the Void Gauntlet was the last thing we got, and it ended up being a DPS weapon. Basically, only people used it for the most part as a DPS weapon. So I'm interested to see what they do. Stances is always very intriguing in a new mechanic sense. So we'll see what they do there. Here's the thing that I think, guys, is the biggest feature on this roadmap entirely, as far as the health or the landscape of New World, and that is leaderboards. Leaderboards are something that BDLG. I know you feel this way. One of the things that kept me playing like Overwatch, that kept you playing League of Legends, is that ability to rank yourself or to compare yourself to other players in the game. So leaderboards are coming to New World in PvP and PvE in autumn. Bordy, you start here first. What do you think about the leaderboard system and the implementation in the autumn update?
Well, yeah, I think Lemoni talked about it a little bit earlier in the episode, and I do think leaderboards are a great way to introduce repeatable content for competitive people. Whenever you have arenas or something like that, I think Lemoni's right. You want to have some competitive leaderboards. So adding them later on, who knows if we'll get leaderboards for arenas, like some kind of ranking system for arenas. Doesn't seem like we're getting that in May. Seems like we are going to get it later on in the year with this leaderboard implementation with Brimstone Sands, but. I think either way, I think once they implement those, they'll see an uptick, because people love to grind the ladders. People like to try to see their name going up on the leaderboard and then try to achieve the highest ranking possible. It's just one of those things that you just want to get better. You want to get better. It's part of of competitive nature, and I think leaderboards are an excellent addition to the game for the health of the game. I think that will hook people in, keep them coming back, keep them playing. Not only will it keep them playing or logging in, it's going to keep them actually playing the game, because people are going to want to log in and not just log back out after they do dailies or whatever. They're going to log in and consistently play every day to try to get better and to try to rank up on the leaderboard. So I think it's fantastic. I wish it was coming in a little bit sooner, but it is what it is, man. Like I said earlier, I think they're just continuing to lay the foundation for this game, and leaderboards is one of those foundation pieces, and I am excited. I think you're right. I think it's huge. I think it's an absolutely huge thing for the roadmap, and I think it'll be huge for the game whenever they're implemented.
Yeah, I just don't want it to be one of those things that's like, a little too late. Right.
Yeah,
I really worry about that. If the PvP competitive component, we have the ultimate PvP mechanism in the game, but the piece that actually makes it competitive doesn't come until 6 months later.
Yeah,
and that is just going to be a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. That I think that's going to be a hard thing to recover from at that point. So that's just my one concern about the leaderboards. And I think you even see that a little bit with mutations. Like I was super excited when mutations came out, and then to see like there wasn't really a leaderboard system, there wasn't something like keep me going, and then just the way they're scaled and everything. But not having a leaderboard right now for mutations is also, like PvE players are not, they don't have anything. And so it's a little tough to just sit there and be like, all right, I'm just going to grind these plus 10s, and you don't get much out of it. So I think I'm just hoping it's not too late at that point.
Yeah, and also the implementation of the leaderboards is key. I think they said they're a ways off, but having these cross server systems in place when the leaderboards are implemented, I think would be ideal. Because, who are we competing against on a 40-person server when there's only maybe one group of people that can run mutations? You look at these the arenas, the expedition group finder, the leaderboards. These all are pretty heavily dependent upon the population on your server if they don't figure out the cross-server or cross-region play at that point. Because I think they become a lot more interesting and a lot more effective if I can then compare myself to everyone in the U.S. East on my, Lazarus mutation time or my, my PvP ranking. Because if I'm on a PvP rank, even on a moderate-sized server, if I'm one of the 10 teams, the 10 3v3 teams that compete on that server, these leaderboards aren't going to be useful at all. They're not going to be enough to keep people there because at some point it becomes stale. Similar, even on Ohono, I feel like it's probably the same 40 or 50, 60 people that play Outpost Rush every day. And then that becomes at some point, the ranking of those systems is pretty mute. You know what I mean? When there's only 50 people playing. So, yeah, I think, these leaderboards are huge for the game, but the timing and implementation of them are definitely a wait and see thing. We'll see how impactful they are. The last two are events, seasonal events. I love seasonal events in MMOs, specifically. Hopefully the summer event and the Nightvale event are more substantial, more like the winter event that allows us to unlock unique weapon skins, unique housing items, etc. For the game, right? I think those type of things are definitely welcomed.
Yeah, I would agree. I look forward to the Halloween event for sure. That's going to be one that I always enjoy doing. I know ESO put on a great Halloween event. I think New World with its aesthetic and the way the world looks, I think they have a real opportunity to do a really cool event during that time of year. So hopefully we'll get one.
Yeah, I think any kind of seasonal event is always a big thing, like in any MMORPG. I was kind of hoping to see more like Valentine's Day and like more some of those events. But again, there's room for improvement. At least we're starting to see some of these events, and I think it's just going to get better as we kind of progress through the events. I will say the one thing with the Winter Convergence Festival is I felt it was a little like drawn out. That we got that extension on it, and it was, and there wasn't like that much to it to like keep you doing stuff with it, right? And I just think, as we get more events, I want more like oomph to it, right? I want a little bit more with it, and don't make it like 3 months long. That's my one thing.
Yeah, and make it a little easier, I think, to obtain the stuff. I mean, grinding out those presents forever just to get one thing, it was just not too fun. Like the event, I think, should be fun. It should be an event intended to let the players get some cool rewards from logging in and playing the event. It shouldn't be something you have to log in and spend 10 hours of your login time for 3 months straight just to get the items that you want to get. Either reduce the cost of those things or
the amount of items.
Or the amount of items that you get, or make the grind for getting the tokens or whatever, the event tokens, not as much, because those events are not. They shouldn't be a part of the game that you log into and you have to grind. It should be a reward to the players and something fun to do. And if it lasts for a week, then it lasts for a week. Let the players get in there and enjoy it and get their stuff,
Yeah, and I just hope it's not going to end up being like a reskin either. Like I could see a vision of like the Halloween where it's
instead
like
of ice,
presents, it's pumpkins,
green glowy.
Oh man, I hope not.
Green glowy, and then it's like there's like headless horsemen running around instead of Yetis or something. Like it'd look cool, but it's like okay, this is the same thing. I'd also like to see more like Turkalon style things with the Halloween and summer events of like a boss that has a loot table, and like maybe that's the thing you can kill every day to maybe like drop a certain cosmetic or something like that.
That'd be cool.
So Turkalon is coming back. More turkey legs for the economy as well. Those are currently like 2,000 a piece. So we'll see. Maybe include a luck food in every event to make those a little bit cheaper, because those were a target of duping last time that I heard. So things like that are definitely welcome in the game. That's about it, guys. That's the roadmap. I don't want to. Obviously, we're running pretty long right now. I want to get Lemoni out of here. But if you guys let us know in the comments below what you guys think about the roadmap, what you'd like to see in the future. I think this is a good start, right, guys? nice transparency here on what they're bringing. Gives a lot of
100%.
room for what we want to see in the future. I think now, I think even right now, knowing that 3v3 PvP arenas are coming gives me the drive to log in and try to get my PvP set and PvP build up to par so I can compete in those. So things like this, it may go a long ways in player hope and logging in. So thank you, New World team, for that. All right, Bordy, why don't we take it over to the company of the week? Okay, well, I guess I'll do the talking from here on out.
There's supposed to be a transition. See, this is why the transition
I did the transition. I said, Bordy.
Well, then you got to cue me back in. I can't see the transition.
All right, the company of the week this
week.
What do you
think? I'm not looking.
The company of the week this week is Guerrilla Gaming.
What a terrible host. Just cue me back in, bro.
I just
You
did.
act like I scripted you. You screwed that up, man. All right. Listen, it's Guerrilla Gaming, all right? They're a hardcore PvP company.
Yeah.
Yeah, sounds like my kind of place. I like it, dude. It says they're Guerrilla Gaming is a sweaty adult only clan preparing its venture into New World. You could take that many different ways, but I get the gist. We are most excited about capturing territories and fighting overwhelming zergs. Such a strong PvP focus requires finding the fastest way to reach max level and acquiring the best gear. So PvE is not something we'll gloss over either. So it sounds like they're going to go hard into PvE, but they're only using PvE to get to the PvP end game. So it sounds like they're using PvP just to get geared up, and then they want to go PvP, and that's the focus of this company. So if you want to go be a part of a hardcore PvP company, Guerrilla Gaming, NA East, they are a Covenant faction. So go check them out. We'll make sure we link their posting everywhere this podcast can be found.
Yeah, somebody thank you for Guerrilla Gaming and all our Patreon for supporting obviously New World fans and promoting your company over there. If you guys have a company, don't forget to go over there and create an account and make sure you're promoting. And make sure if you do create one, just update your server because a lot of the times when we advertise these, it's like, the server is a very important aspect of if you want to join a company or not. So, and if with transfer tokens on the way, maybe someone wants to transfer to you. So you want to put that in there. But thank you again for using that. All right, Lemoni, it's been great, man. One more time before we go, tell people where they can find you. On the internet.
YouTube, Twitch. That's pretty much it.
All right, we'll link it in there.
TikTok, Twitter stuff too, but that's there.
Oh,
but
boy.
yeah, mainly. What other plugs do I have? Maybe do a hot tub stream on Twitch sometime if you want to watch that. We'll see what goes on, but that's about it.
Wisconsin. I mean, you're gonna have to wait a while.
That'll be a good one. Yeah,
maybe. I guess I guess it's kind of cool. When I had a hot tub, I would definitely. The winter is like the best time to use it. Maybe.
I was kind of thinking putting like a little inflatable one right behind me, just kind of chilling there
in your room. Interesting. Yeah, great.
That'd be good. Sleep in it.
I mean, it's a viable
subathon. Subathon. Who knows?
Hey, all right, man. Well, maybe we'll come out there to Wisconsin and we'll get in your room hot tub.
Yeah, it sounds like
sounds like great fun,
bro. Just for the record.
Hey, man, I'm open to everything. So
I'm ready for it.
I'm only halfway there. I'm halfway there already. So, all right. Well, Lemoni, thanks for joining us, man. Long time coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
Obviously, open invitation, dude. Whenever you want to come back on, you just let us know.
You just let me know. You let me know. I'm here.
All right. Fine, we'll do. Thanks for listening, guys. We really appreciate it. Exciting stuff in the New World space. We'll continue to be here for you every week, and we'll see you in another episode of New World to Go.